Welcome to another segment of Contemplative Aromatherapy for Transforming Consciousness. In this segment, we're going to be talking about frankincense oil and how we can use that to cultivate ecological spirituality. If you have some of the oil available, you can keep it close by and we can do the meditations together in a few minutes. So when we do contemplative aromatherapy, we inhale the fragrance in a very mindful way of the concentrated essences of the plant and everything it contains. And when we use aromatherapy in general, it comes in through different routes of administration. And we can concentrate on these different routes depending on what we want to study and to develop or transform in our consciousness. Sometimes we will use the fragrance and its impact on the brain and the limbic system to focus on that, and sometimes it will be the respiratory system. In this case, it's going to be the inhalation of the fragrance into the heart. Now, all three of these routes are anatomically and physiologically correct, but we can focus on different routes depending on what we want to place our attention on to study and to develop. So with frankincense, we're going to be inhaling it consciously into the heart. And that's actually one of the routes of the molecules as they go into the body. It comes in on the breath, through the respiratory system, into the heart. Now, why do we want to focus on the heart with frankincense? Well, the reason that I am discussing this subject here today, using frankincense to develop a kind of ecological spirituality, is because we're losing the frankincense trees. And like a lot of endangered species, this means that we are going to have to develop some kind of relationship with them, even if it just means becoming aware of our relationship with what we are losing. Now, there's a lot of reasons why we are losing frankincense trees. First, it's because they grow in the desert and they're very slow to regenerate. And they are also under threat because of great interest and demand. In a certain way, we could say that some of these species, like frankincense, are being loved into extinction. They also contain very powerful medicinal substances that are the subject of a lot of modern research. And in areas of poverty, they also represent a great source of potential income. But unfortunately, poverty is driving over-tapping, over-harvesting, and now even cutting down the trees for firewood. And this becomes a downward spiral, where as a natural resource becomes more valuable, its value and price goes up, which then drives more over-harvesting. And so this is what we are facing. And there is no easy solution to this. Where the frankincense trees grow, it's very harsh terrain. Politically, it's a very bad place to try to have sustainability projects. And so therefore, we are being told by botanists that frankincense trees are under extreme threat. And it's a species that we may very well lose relatively soon. So what do we do with this information? How can we actually relate to this? And is there any way that we might be able to change this? One of the most important concepts that I've been talking about for a very long time is that our relationship with nature starts with whether we appreciate things or not. And this little contemplative practice is simply a way to develop and enhance our appreciation for the frankincense trees, in the hope that if we have a more enlightened attitude and care about a species more, that maybe there's a way that we can change this. But let's talk first, before we get into actually sampling the oil, let's talk a little bit about what the loss of this tree actually means. And that can start to change our consciousness, actually, just to understand what it is that we're losing. Because if we know what we are losing, then it means that we can start to change our relationship with individual species And in this particular case, the main point that I want to make is that the loss of any endangered species, whether it is plant or animal, that it means we're losing part of our humanity. Because when it comes to species like frankincense, these are trees that have played a very big role in human history, and specifically in the spiritual history of humanity. Frankincense is inseparably interwoven with the world's religions and with countless people's prayers and meditation practices and making offerings and giving thanks and gratitude and so forth. And so this is a tree that is actually part of our collective consciousness. It's part of our collective spiritual evolution and part of our collective spiritual practices for thousands of years. So what part of our consciousness can we actually transform when we start to think about how we can change our consciousness? Well, first we can become aware of the role that these trees have played, the role that frankincense resin and now the oil, the role that these medicines and fragrances have played in the human psyche, but also throughout history. And when we smell the oil, we're going to be reconnecting to all of this tradition, to all the 1,000 years of use, to the stories of the frankincense road and the harvesting and all the different things that frankincense has done, and to all the people that have been healed by using frankincense resin and now using the oil. So we're talking about a lot of things that are in this bottle here. We're talking about many, many connections. So now let's just jump right in here and start talking about, well, what is actually going to change in our consciousness when we start to use this? Well, first of all, we can change the part of us that has been ignorant of the loss of the trees. And we can do that not just by me telling you these things about, okay, frankincense is precious and we're losing it, but we can actually draw this fragrance all the way into the heart. And in that drawing in of this aroma, we can start to communicate with the tree directly, because it's a biological, physical connection that we have with anything that we breathe in. And so if we are breathing in the essence of a tree that has been produced by the tree and its intelligence and the elements of the desert, and we are bringing this into the center of the heart mindfully in meditation, then our consciousness, which is centered in the heart, our innermost spiritual consciousness, which is centered in the heart, can be in a kind of communion with the oil from the heart of the tree. And that's what the oil is. It's the distilled aromatic oil from the resin of the tree. And the resin is the blood of the tree. So there's a biological link then between the resin in the tree and the fragrance that we are inhaling, and that fragrance coming into the lungs, into our bloodstream, from the bloodstream of the tree. And if we pay attention to that, we can actually start to really feel that, and we can start to feel the inside of the tree inside of us, and we can feel the inside of our heart communicating with the tree. What's another thing that we can change within our consciousness other than just becoming aware of that biological unity? We can start to cultivate a bit more gratitude and thanksgiving for what the trees have given humanity for a very long time. And we can express this even just through the act of spending a moment in this kind of internal relationship with these trees inside of us. We can also start to change the part of society that just takes things from nature without actually realizing the value of what we have until it's gone. So my mission in presenting frankincense oil in this way, even though it is an endangered species, has been to raise people's consciousness so that they can actually feel the connection to the tree. And I think that's the only way that we can really start to develop a greater appreciation that might translate into actual projects on the ground that can preserve what's left. In other words, when trees are more valuable than the other things we're doing in that area, a lot of it is political and military, then we'll start to take care of the trees. And that's a general principle for taking care of nature overall. When we start to value nature, then it will become a top priority to take care of it. And we can start doing that right now, one oil at a time, from one species at a time. And from that, we'll start to develop our ecological spirituality through paying attention to the interconnectedness that is there. Maybe if we do this enough and enough people care, then the trees can be protected. All right. So let's go ahead and do this now. We have a little bit of frankincense oil. Maybe you have some and you can join me with this. And the contemplation is very simple. We just put a drop on the fingertips, and then we can start by just feeling the oil. So this is distilled from the resin, like I said, and the resin, when it is burned on a coal, is a kind of crystallized drop of botanical blood that is being offered in the ceremony. That's a nice way to think about it. It's also the intelligence of the tree. It's the immunological intelligence of the tree specifically that goes back millions and millions of years. Okay, these trees have been around for a very long time. So now let's meditate together. Inhale it slowly, mindfully, and be aware that what we are inhaling is the sunlight of the desert and the moonlight and the extreme heat, the fire element and the air element and the dryness of the soil. We just inhale that. And in this contemplation, we inhale it directly, deeply into the heart. And as we inhale it deeply into the heart, we can feel the biological connection that we have to this tree. So take a moment. Inhale the essence of the tree into the heart. And this is a physical, biological connection that is happening. So just feel that. And then let's review all the things that we're actually connected with. And in that way, we can sort of bear witness, as it were, to the trees. We can be present with the trees, with our attention. And not just academic, intellectual attention, but actual, deep, spiritual connection through the heart. And so what are we connecting with? Let's think about the thousands and thousands of years of prayers and contemplative practice, human spiritual aspirations to give thanks and offerings, and to ask for spiritual guidance, and to ask for blessings. Humanity has been using this tree for a very long time as a bridge, as a connection to spirit. And so let's remember that. Let's remember that this is part of the human psyche at a very, very deep level. Remember that as you inhale it. Think about all the medicines that have come from this and all the ways that the resin and the oil have helped so many people for thousands and thousands of years. And most importantly, when we inhale this directly into the heart, let's just say thank you to the trees for the role that they have played in medicine and spirituality and commerce and culture. And you can do this on your own anytime you want. You can talk to the frankincense trees inwardly through the heart. And this will help to develop a sense of ecological spirituality. And maybe, if enough people are doing this and appreciating the frankincense trees inwardly like this, maybe we can create the conditions that we can take better care of them and they can stay with us longer. If you have something that you would like to express to the trees of gratitude and thanksgiving, you can say it through the heart. And there's a connection. Okay, so that's our little segment for today. Thank you for joining me. And in appreciation, we're going to offer a discount code so that you can enjoy this oil if you don't have it already, or if you'd like to get some more. So, thank you again.